Get them to try.
Resume. We are back in action. For week 4. So thank you for coming in. We got a nice group on Zoom so far. And yeah, we'll get rolling. So this is week 4 out of 12. Kudos for continuing on and seeing return faces. If this is your first time in, welcome. We're glad you're here. Week 1 was mindset. Week 2 was kind of the financial conversation with Dominic, which was always a lot of fun. Last week, what did we talk about? Leverage with Stephanie Webb. Kind of what does it look like to focus on the things that actually matter in your business as opposed to just staying busy. And this week we're basically beginning a 3-part series on leads. So lead generation, you got to get in relationship with the people. Lead conversion, you got to move them somewhere. And then Jose and I are going to have a conversation around internet lead generation, because that's kind of a different beast, though it matters as well. So that's where we're going today. I'm curious, for those who were part of last week's conversation, I kind of gave you some homework, making a list as you're out doing your work, as you're servicing clients, as you're seeking to find clients. Making a list of the stuff you're spending time on and identifying things that you can find other ways to do them, to leverage them out. Anyone have any light bulb moments, any ahas with things that you're wasting time on and other people involved in helping you with? Scott, you have a nice little smirk there. Disregard.
We had an aha moment, we just shared it.
Any comments that Stephanie made that got you thinking differently about the way that you run your business?
I'll try to monitor the chat, but it's hard to see.
Antonio, anything from you?
I don't remember anything in specific, but I do remember commenting afterwards. There was maybe like 3 or 4 things she hit on. I'm going through that exact thing. Or just recently have gotten over stuff like that. So
Yep. There's nothing heroic about being busy.
no.
And I think we often act like there is. I'm so busy right now. Good job. You know, you don't get bonus points for being busy.
I will say I fired a client last week,
Oh, tell us about that.
time waster, couldn't do it anymore. I've done it just a few times in all my years, but lovely people, off and on for 2 years. They're gonna buy, they're not gonna buy, they're gonna buy. We've been under contract a couple times. Once we got all the way through the home inspection and they backed out. And I'm like, you guys are nice people, but move along.
Yeah,
Just can't do it.
you're not really looking to buy.
No, they find a reason every time. And so, yeah, it's like, okay, I don't have anything else going on today. You want to look at houses? Sure. Well, I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah, part of leverage is finding the most impactful ways to spend your time. And in theory, showing houses to clients isn't an impactful thing,
course.
but if they're not really clients, then good for you. That's a 2-way street, right? Anything else? I'm also, just as a PSA, sending follow-ups of the digital copy of Shift. So that's happening in the weekly email. So if you've not been on those, I can add a few who are fresh faces to that. If you're a new Zoomer, just drop your email address on Zoom and I'll add you to the list if you've not been getting my emails. As well as there's a student guide that goes alongside what we're talking about, but we're doing things a little bit more bite-sized. We're not going to cover as much ground as is in here today. We're going to cover the things that matter, and I'm going to share all of this with you for those who want to dig in and go more. So we're going to talk with Angel, hear her story and her journey through shifting markets. We're going to get kind of perspective about what it means to lead gen, the outwit, outplay, outlast. That's knowing your stuff as it relates to lead gen, being a real estate expert, truly, which a lot of us say we are, but what does that mean? And then we're going to talk really about finding the motivated. We'll talk about sources of leads and then move on from there. Angel, come on up. Come on down. You're the next contestant.
Oh.
And yeah.
We were doing
She-
great.
she- what- Yes, you can
It's
virtually.
the hot seat.
The hot seat, and you're in a similar color to what we've got here. That's that works. So. Amy knows you, those at DHOF know you, but maybe not everybody in the room knows you. So tell us who you are now, and then let's go back in your story a little bit.
Okay, I'm Angel Agnes. I'm with DHOP Realtors. I've been with them for 27 years.
Wow.
My daughter is now licensed. That's my daughter Allison, and she just got licensed as well. I've only been with DHOP. They've been a great organization and a great company. Couple different businesses under one hat. So they do a lot of relocation, development, and residential real estate. So it's kind of a lot under one roof, and I found that to be fascinating and an interesting whole gamut
Mhm.
for real estate.
What do you like to do when you're not selling real estate?
Oh, God.
I'm putting her on the spot here. We don't script this stuff.
Right. Travel.
Mhm.
Travel. I like to go try new places, try and see new things, so learn interesting things. That's
Eat
probably my-
interesting things.
Oh, gosh, eat. Oh, who doesn't like to eat?
Well, some people don't like eating interesting things. Like they go and they want the steak, and there's nothing wrong with that, but
You gotta
others,
try something different,
yeah,
kind of like in real estate. You gotta try new things sometimes.
sure.
How about that for
Sure.
a second?
Nice. Well done.
Did you like that?
Yeah, I did. When you're meeting with a client now, Angel, and this is
Mhm.
lead gen specific, this is just us getting to
Okay.
know you. Why would someone work with you? How do you differentiate yourself in an industry where we've got 1,200 realtors within 10 minutes of you?
Oh, gosh, probably experience.
Mhm.
Knowledge of the area, which is so important, as a lot of you guys know that have been in the business for quite some time. You know, if somebody's coming in, especially new, knowing like what is their hot buttons and where to put them with their either lifestyle or maybe their family, whatever function they would have. I think I have a lot of knowledge to help facilitate that,
Mhm.
or whether they're looking to come here because of employment.
Mhm. You mentioned rebuild and development. You've worked in both of those
Yes,
spaces as
yes,
well.
I've been very lucky to work in both.
Do you
in
have,
relocation and in development?
do you have a lane that you enjoy more than others?
Wait. I really do like development. I love our new developments. DHOP does, everyone knows that DHOP has a lot of developments. And for me, I love that, where you're taking just raw land and creating something, and then the new construction, the infrastructure that goes along with it, the
Mhm.
jobs, the community. It's fascinating.
What skills or competencies are more important to have in that space than in the traditional residential space?
Oh, boy. Knowing how to tell people that if things are gonna happen in a year, they're not. So learning how to keep everybody kind of, everybody wants to know, like, when is the development going to be ready? Or when is my new home going to be finished? And trying to live up to expectations without, over promising and then under delivering. So that's a little bit different when you're dealing with new construction and development than residential. Residential is kind of simple, where
The house is there already.
the house is here, we're doing inspections in 2 weeks and we're closing in 30 to 40 days. That's an easy one. This one gets a little bit more complicated, and you really need to stay in constant contact with your people and
Sure.
help guide them along the way so they're not frustrated.
Managing expectations for a
Oh,
longer
boy.
period of time, and the highs are probably higher and the lows are probably lower through
Yeah.
that process.
Yes.
We got supply chain issues, we got pricing issues.
Oh, that's
This
fine.
contractor didn't show up
Those are
today. Yeah, no, that makes sense. So licensed for 27 years, that
Yeah.
takes us back to circa 1995. You've seen a number, Dominic called them adjustments, his delicate way of talking about markets being different. So you've seen a couple. take us in, I don't know if there's a particular moment, if it was in the 07, 08, 09 range, or if it was earlier than that. When you had to adjust the way that you were approaching your business.
It was definitely through that 08, 09. I would think right before then, I think a lot of us saw a lot of kind of like what was happening in the past year. There was a lot of excitement, there was a lot of moving. You know, things were going quite well. And then when that crash did come, it really made a lot of us agents try to pivot a bit. Try to pivot, you know, like,
Were you
What can
already,
we
I mean,
do?
you'd been in 12 or 13 years at that point. Where was the scope of your business at that point? You're selling 40 houses a year?
gosh, it was kind of a little different, maybe not quite as many as 40.
Okay,
But definitely, I don't know what my numbers were
but
back
active
in
and
that.
established.
Yeah, but definitely active and established. And at the time, in development and new construction, we really had to, like now we see, with the challenges that we're facing now, you really do have to become a little more creative. And I know then we worked a lot with the lenders, and I can see us trying to do that today. You know, when people are complaining about the interest rates, you know, really our numbers aren't that far down. They're just kind of, it seems like they're correcting a bit.
Right. The
You know,
balancing.
so when people are saying, oh my gosh, things are coming to a halt, it's not. They're correcting, which it should, I
Mhm.
think.
Mhm.
Because I think it was becoming a bit maybe irresponsible in the way things were
Oh, no.
going.
No doubt.
And, but anyway, so now you're just having to get a little more creative as we did then, working with the lenders. There's so many great programs out there. We all have great connections with them. And I really say focusing on the programs that are available and showing people some of the great items that are available. Like there's city property, money out there. If your property is within a certain limit, there's some lenders out there will allow no money down. So even though the interest rates are creeping up 6.5, there are things to help offset that. And then the price of our overpaying
Yeah,
isn't there. So it's kind of seems like it's balancing itself.
right. It's a much more chilled out
Yeah,
version
and-
of that for sure.
Yeah.
Did you have to do anything dramatically different? Oh, I lost half of my business because of X, Y, or Z, or this development project shut down because
Mhm.
funding disappeared. Were there any like, oh shift moments
Yeah.
in a dramatic sort of way?
Yes, we did, and unfortunately, at that point, because of the practices with financing, they were allowing builders at that point in time to build all these spec houses, and that's why you don't see a lot of them doing that today, because then these builders were left with, gosh, we had some, I believe, that had 10 to 20 homes under construction at one point. That's too many when the inventory is out there and you don't have a lot of people buying.
Right.
So and then a lot of the builders went completely out of business. And it was an interesting time, and boy, did we all have to learn quickly what we had to do, what creative ideas to sell a house not finished, the builders underwater. And what do we do to finance? Because no lender wanted to finance a project that's half done.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
we really, it was.
yeah, the development space was an even scarier space.
Oh,
than
it was
resale, no doubt.
terrible, but boy, did we really have to rally around each other and come up with ideas and say, oh my gosh, and this is where working together as teams and really having a good relationship with all the agents
Mhm.
really could come in handy, because it's like, we need to bounce ideas, like out of the box, what can we do? And then working with the lenders and
Yep.
everybody.
Yeah, let's pause for a quick second, and we won't do this every week, but we'll do it every couple of weeks. What are you saying right now? So, okay, we're talking about the market, and part of our skills is being able to have a good 30-second how's the market sort of response. Fed raised the interest rates by 3/4 of a basis point. We all know that. And what was that, a week ago?
Mhm, last Wednesday.
Feels like every 2 weeks we get, some sort of news. So what's the answer now? What's happening in the market? I'd love to hear 2 or 3 people share how you might respond to that, or how you are responding to that now.
I think that it's still very stable. Because if you look over the past 10 years, around 5,000 houses sell in Stark County every year.
Mhm.
Then between 55 and 45 for the most part. And it is just really readjusting to norms. We're at pre-pandemic normals. And so I think it's stable and it's not coming to an end. Homes are one of the 3 basic necessities: food, clothing, and shelter,
Mhm.
and life events drive those decisions.
Yes,
So I think it's,
say more about the life events driving those decisions, because I think that's a fantastic point.
well, when you look at, we'll start with engagements and marriages and birth of children. Empty nesters, all these different things that occur in our lives really drive our housing needs, whether it's moving up to something bigger or different, or getting old like me, and now I need probably a ranch, and it's hard to find. But, I think, that's just really a key thing to watch.
Yeah, well, and I think the point worth highlighting there is when people fixate over interest rates or what's happening, or will my home be worth less in a year than it is right now? Not that those are irrelevant questions, but the reason we make those decisions to buy or to sell are seldom about the decimal points and the interest rates. It's because life is happening, because we need to do something, because we want to do something, not because of what the Fed did a week ago. And I think as we call people back to, why do you want to make this decision? It can help chill some of those things out. Someone else was gonna say something. Great response. 1 or 2 others? You guys are quiet much. Yes, Scott.
I think that there's a perception issue that is very broad with people. Some people I'm seeing, we had somebody offer $50,000 less than a listing. So I think you have some people who are thinking it's right after like 08 and 09 and stuff, and thinking, now I'm getting the deal. Or some people, they put anyone who listed in the last 2 years in a category that now they want to stick it to them.
Yeah.
And then I think you also see some people who still think, I gotta get this house, because they don't realize all that's happened. And so they think they still have to beat people to that. So I think it's a very broad range of perspective. So I think for us to be calm, be that calming to others, communicating that, educating them. I think it's true that the market is more a normal market. And I think that when you're dealing with somebody who's younger buyers, they might not know what a normal market once was. So teaching them that, but it's a big perception issue. And so I think our communication and our ability to be calm in each of these settings is important.
Right.
And I also have the sense people are waiting. They're like, okay, if I don't get it, I'm waiting till spring. Everyone's anticipating something different in the spring. And the interest rates and the election have a lot to do with.
Right. There's a lot of external factors that more people are reading more news now than
It depends on who you're talking to, buyers or sellers,
Yes.
obviously. It's still a strong seller's market. We're not writing 55 offers, 53. What did Jose have on 50?
50.
Because I was one of those, yeah. 53.
Holly won the
I know she
sweepstakes,
did.
yeah.
I know she did. She wrote an unbeatable offer. I mean, it was amazing, but anyhow, we're not having that, so it's taken a stress off the buyers a little bit.
Mhm.
Sellers are still really in a strong position, and sometimes I think I've said this several times before, but sometimes I trot out my first house that I bought in 1980, whatever, I trot out that interest rate of 15%.
Mhm.
People still bought and sold.
Yep, for personal reasons. Dominic, I see your hand, though you're not in the room.
Don't let him.
We're gonna vote as to whether we're gonna give Dominic the mic. All in favor? What do you gotta say?
Hey, there's no shortage of words, man. Hey, good job, everybody. Listen, what a few of the people commented on is very true. The perception, unfortunately, is the reality, right? Can you guys hear me? Yes or no?
Yeah, yep, you're good.
So the job really for us to do, and this is the bummer about it, with all the headlines and social media and all the dramatic everything, and a lot of people that are familiar with the last 2 years of business, it's pretty traumatic to see a change like it's happening now. But honestly, when you look at 6.5%, 6%, 5.5%, which is high compared to the last 2 years. But if you actually track 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21, and now 22, actually, we still have more showing activity on properties now in 2022 than we did in 17, 18, and 19. So the only difference is there's less showing activity in 22 compared to 21 and 20 because of the pandemic. So really, it's what's so awesome about the market now, even if you don't know it, is that it is breathable now for a second. So instead of sleeping on it, even though if it's in the price point and it's in good condition, great location, you're still going to have multiple offers. It's still going to sell at or above. But if you look at the listing to sell ratio, you're going to notice it's still calming down to about 99%, 97%, 100%. It's not 102, 105. So it's kind of nice. Yeah, it's kind of nice to see it calm down a little bit. So you have to be that calming voice, like the gentleman said. I don't remember what his name is. The one that said he's looking for a ranch. By the way, we can hook you up. I got 2 of them listing. Hey, but anyhow,
That was
so-
Dave. Dave, well done.
yeah. Hey, Dave. So like what you said, is very true. And then what Linda said, I bought my first home in 81, and the rates came from in the 20s to 18, and I thought that was a good, a good time to buy. So even though the prices are a little less right now, or stabilizing, and the rates are a little higher. So remember, you marry the house and you date the rate. So that means, randomly you watch those rates. So when they come down, you refi or pay a little extra on the principal. So that's kind of what I'm saying. It's still a wonderful time. You just got to make sure you share that message.
Yep. And speaking of messaging, we'll dive deeper on that in a minute. The market it's tricky. I think it's nuanced. And I think my biggest pet peeve right now, and if anyone in the room has done this in the last couple of weeks, shame on you. It's the social media post. The market is still flaming hot right now. Don't wait. It's either that it's never been better, sort of overselling what's happening, or the sky's falling, do something now. Like overplaying the news is not doing your future clients any favors. And so hey, I was able to do this for this client. We were able to navigate. And if you want to talk about what it would look like for you, I'd be glad to have a conversation. You have the opportunity to show your value more than ever. So do it. Don't just say the market's flaming hot. Give me a call if you want to, because they can call anyone if it's just the market being flaming hot. It's different. David.
Just real quick about interest rates. First-time buyers bought houses at 12%. There was first-time buyer money back in the early 80s. And they camped out over the weekend. They started on Friday because the money was available on Monday. So people will always buy.
Yeah.
And at 12% fixed, we still got a long.
Camped out for 12% fixed. That's
Yeah, so.
That's-
That's your full time for
yeah, exactly.
I know this.
Yeah, indeed. Was there another hand? Okay. So, and this is content from the shift class that isn't specific to this market right now. But as the market shifts, so as we think about our businesses are funnels, right? When we say, I'd love to make this much money, what's that stream of that much money? It's this number of homes sold, it's this number of contracts, it's this many agreements, it's many appointments, it's many. And so when markets shift, the ratio of the funnels change, right? So if I needed to be in a relationship with, if I needed to help 5 buyers at one time in order to yield the sort of business that I could handle, maybe I need to get in a relationship with 7 or 8 buyers. So the amount of serious leads, to Linda's earlier point, diminish in a shifting market. And we aren't yet seeing that, but we're beginning to see early signs of that, not because the sky is falling, but because things are shifting. So as a reminder, in real estate, you got 2 jobs: lead gen and servicing the leads that you've got. So for us to remember that. Skip through that. Let's have a conversation as you think about your goals. And Angel, I'd love to look back over to you, as you think about your goals
Mhm.
each year, how do you think about goals and how do you connect that with the activities that you do in a week in, week out basis as it relates to lead generation and building your business?
So, it's kind of like that old formula where you say, okay, if in order for me to have so many transactions per year, what am I going to have to do to facilitate that? And every year, of course, this past year was a little different, but is it how many cards do I have to send out? How many phone calls per day? And then breaking that down per month, per week, per day.
Are you fairly regimented about that or
Oh, gosh. I
seasonally?
used to be so good at that. And then you get a little busy. And this is where I make a mistake. And I think a lot of other agents make that mistake where instead of blocking that time as you should, you get busy and you think, oh gosh, that can wait. No, it can't, because then when you stop being busy, you stopped creating the next
Mhm.
generation, the next group of buyers, sellers, whatever. So you always have to keep that pipe going all the time. I
Right.
used to be able to do that, and now I'm licensed in Florida, and I'm now, thank
As of
you.
A couple months ago?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So now I'm reminded what it takes to get something started off the ground, because then you sit back after 27 years, you're like, oh, but then you're like, oh my gosh, now I have to remind myself, like, I used to try to challenge myself at the beginning of when I first got started, like writing so many handwritten notes. Or if I saw an article in the newspaper, like, oh, my kids were in school, it's like, oh gosh, so-and-so just scored a touchdown or something. And I'd take the newspaper with just a little sticky and thought you'd like an extra copy, 'cause
Mhm.
if your kid's in the newspaper, you want everybody, grandma's gotta get a copy, everybody's gotta get a copy. So it was real simple and easy. You just put a little sticky note with not your card, because you don't want it to look like
Yeah, yeah.
you want it to be genuine. And just take that newspaper, throw it in your mailbox, not even, just thought you'd like an extra copy,
It's a
here's
better
mine.
way.
Huh?
Yeah, it is.
I've done it, I'm just saying, I'm getting annoying. No, that's
Well,
great.
I didn't do it. I kind of had somebody else, no.
Yeah, I threw it in there next to it.
The door opened, but, or like, and then I used to try to challenge myself. Somebody had told me this when I first got in the business. Always have a stack of cards in your pocket or in your purse or whatever. Do you remember all those things? And it works, because it's a reminder. If you don't forget to get in front of somebody, they're gonna forget you when there's so many agents, but you would challenge yourself to like, I want to pass out so many cards per week.
Yes,
So then you force yourself to get out, get networking with people, which I love networking with people because they always have fun stories. But,
Mhm.
and how many cards do you have to give out to people? Like, here's my card.
Mhm.
But, and then handwritten cards, absolute favorite,
Mhm.
absolute favorite. Like, no matter what, a quick note to somebody.
So we'll say that you're not in the real estate business, you're in the relationship business until somebody has a real estate need.
Yep.
In a shifting market, is that more true or less true?
More.
Why?
Because like when everybody was busy, anybody could have written a contract for you. They don't care. They wanted somebody there right now. Instant.
Speed to lead.
Instant.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
How can I get into this house first? How can I make my contract against 53 others look amazing?
Mhm.
They don't care who you are.
Right.
You could have, they just don't care. But when things start to calm down and we've gone through these ups and downs, that you have to be the expert. You should be the one that really cares about their needs and actually being the professional and saying, your needs are very important, not just the sale.
Right.
So that's, and now that things are going to change and you're really trying to work for them and say, gosh, let me help find a better financing program that might fit your needs. So you don't have to put it on pause.
Mhm.
You don't have to wait till spring, and now if you wait till spring, somebody had said that earlier, till the market conditions change or after the election, what if things go to the worst?
Right.
Today might be your best opportunity. And if you're a buyer and you're waiting until spring, well, there's 200 other buyers. So now we're back up to competing offers.
Right, right.
Or, you know, or a seller, and everybody holds off and says, gosh, I'll put my house on the market in the spring.
What, do you know something about the spring that I don't? Yeah.
Tell me, because I want to know.
Mhm.
But yes, definitely being in a relationship with.
So it seems like
customers.
as you think about goals and intentionality around lead gen, it's more about the activities of writing the
Mhm.
notes, of
Yep.
making the calls, of committing federal offenses, than it is about
We do what we
hours.
gotta do.
Do what you gotta do. Then it is about 8 AM to 11 AM every day.
Mhm.
I'm cold calling FISBOs. Like,
Mhm.
tell me more about the activities that are important for you to drive leads within your business.
So I love the hand notes. I like,
Are you systematic about that? I've got a
I used to
spreadsheet
be,
and
and
every.
now it's been kind of crazy. Now I really have to get back to the basics, because the basics are really, you're not reinventing the wheel.
Yep.
It's really getting there and doing the work. And it doesn't have to be 8 to 11 at night.
Mhm.
It is just block off a few hours in the morning, write your notes, do your phone calls. Now you have all the social media, people put their stuff out there, they want you to respond to them. And they.
Well, and let's camp on that for a second. Social media presents great opportunity,
Mhm.
yes. Also presents great risk for feeling like we're in a relationship with people that we're not really in a
Right.
relationship. So as you talk about being back to the basics,
Mhm.
I would argue that a handwritten note today means more than it did 15 years ago.
Yes.
Because it's rarer. We don't
Right.
write handwritten notes. Oh, she's communicating with me in that way.
Right.
He actually thought about me as opposed to liking or sharing
Right.
or just posting something. Not that that stuff is not valuable. There's a helpful, there's different rubrics out there with regards to social media. We're not going to talk about this today, so I'll just hit it now. 10-5-1 is one that we talked about this morning, actually, in a different class. 10 likes a day, 5 comments a day, and 1 direct message a day. It's just a simple, hey, I want to be visible. I want people to see that I'm seeing them. It's a kind of a quick and dirty, it shouldn't be 50, 30, and 10. Otherwise, you're just hanging out on Facebook all day and you're not
Mhm.
actually
Right.
running a business, which, we know plenty of people who operate that way. Yeah, Amy.
I'd like to make a comment. Instead of liking, they need to put the hearts. The likes don't mean anything anymore. They need a heart.
Tell us more about that.
Well, it's just one of the algorithms where.
Oh, okay, so like
I
Facebook
hear
sees
that.
it.
Likes
Okay.
don't show up anymore. They don't
You
count
have
for
to
anything.
comment or a heart.
Right, you
or
need a
something.
heart
I heard
or
that too.
comment.
Mhm, mhm.
So 10 hearts.
10 hearts a day. Okay, Amy's up the
Wow.
ante. Challenge
All
later.
right.
Uh-huh.
Did know that.
Yeah, it is funny now that we have more options. I've accidentally done the like, ooh, it's like, oh, that should have just been like, Mark, slow down. I've done the angry face at the wrong, double check yourself just to make sure that,
Laughing Faces on a sad story.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, why are you laughing at?
LOL does not mean love, lots of love, yes. Talk with me, so part of success in generating leads is speaking the right way, is scripting is a taboo word for some people. Oh, I don't script, I just have conversations. How have you, over 27 years, worked to sharpen your craft so that you're having better conversations with prospective clients, with strangers, when you're out
I'm not sure that I
networking?
do. I'm not sure that I got better.
Mhm.
Gosh, there's so many people that you could look up to or read or seminars to kind of sharpen your tools, and stopping to listen to how people speak to other people. I think it's fascinating. There's so many great people in our industry that I listened to. I had just taken a client to a new construction meeting, and the gal that was representing the builder was so well spoken. So you sit back and you think, gosh, these are great tools. It's so impressive to hear, especially the younger people come up with the way they speak to people. I try to listen to what maybe the current topic is for the day,
Sure.
and then adjust your your vocabulary or the topic of conversation. So for instance, with the interest rates, you're got to have that in the back of your mind and be ready to talk about that. You may not want to lead with that, but be
Right.
prepared, you
Yes.
know, at some point. You have to be educated in what we're doing, and your vocabulary has to have that topic in it or be prepared and ready.
And that's a great example. I think we think scripts and we think that we're an actor on a stage, and that's not what I signed up for. But being prepared to have the sorts of conversations that
Mhm.
people are looking to have. Now, whether you're responding, hey, what's happening in the market?
Mhm.
That's a conversation versus whether you're initiating with a FISBO, and that's a much more amplified, high rejection sort of
Mhm.
environment. Couple tips for those who are interested in sharpening their craft. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. And actually, at the end of this today's guide, which I'll send in an email afterward, there's 4 pages worth of scripts for FISBOs, for expireds, for people that you know, for people that you don't know. None of those are perfect and meant to just be rote memorized. It's take the concept, what are you going for? Write down what's fitting for you. What's Linda's version of that? Say it, and then talk it through with people. It's not, none of this is rocket science, but I think there's a lot of people who are allergic to being prepared. Honestly, oh, I don't do scripts. Okay, do you not want to look like a professional? It's not about memorization, it's about preparation in my humble opinion. So just a couple cents there. Dominic, your hand is still up. I'm not sure if you're looking to speak again, or if I'm gonna lower your hand. I didn't realize I could do that. Yeah, the recommendation is for 30 minutes to an hour each day, study the industry and then practice script and role play. So let's talk about studying. And this can be a conversation, Angel, I'll give you first pass. As you think about understanding what's happening in the market,
Mhm.
one of the points that we're going to make in a minute is your national news. It's important for you to know what your people are reading. You should not be getting your information from the national news, aside from, okay, these are what my
No.
people might be sensitive to. Because what's happening in California is not what's happening in Stark County or Ashland County or whatever. Talk with me as you think about, Angel, being prepared, understanding what's happening from it might be an MLS data standpoint, it
Mhm.
may be a news related standpoint. What are you looking for to be more of a resource to your people?
So as far as like the educational things, I kind of take a look at like the sales, like what price points are moving right now, what price points are slower right now than the listings, and then knowing the conversion rates. That's one thing to know, especially when you're armed, when people do want to come at you and say, gosh, the market's terrible and the sky is falling. That's not true. And then having that information, like, no, we're still getting multiple offers, not as many, those kind of things. Then we also want to know, like, locally, like what's happening in our community, what is in our backyard, because that's the most important. We're not selling real estate in California, so we don't care.
Right.
Like, it's important to know a little bit because you want to be able to have those conversations, but it's more important that we kind of get into it in a micro level. and
Yeah.
What we're
And
doing.
some of that is data. Okay, what's happening in the MLS, what's averaging in the market, which percentage of sale price to list price,
Yeah.
those sorts of bits of information, which is highlighted here to be able to say, hey, here's what we're really seeing, not just in Ohio, but in your community, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. But also being attuned to what's happening locally. What corporation is moving out or moving in?
Coming in, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, the Village, like you should know all of those things.
Are there
you know.
rezoning
Yes.
questions to be voted on that could impact the desirability of one neighborhood over
Right.
against the other?
And that's a great selling point or a tip for knowing like how many jobs are Amazon bringing in? They're bringing in, they're not going to do their demographics and not know that this is a thriving area. And then like the Village, those are people that are having jobs. Now they're going to have places to live. Like what else, what other communities? So you should know the market conditions here.
Anyone want to contribute? What is there a news source you like to go to that you feel is particularly helpful, learning what's happening so that you can be more of a resource to your client base? Scott?
I think getting involved in things that we are aware of, like the Ohio Association of Realtors, local boards, because you're hearing about local laws that are coming up that are impacting various people. I know, short-term rentals are an issue that we're seeing in local communities. We're also seeing, laws that, I know North Canton just passed something that may hurt some investors, with some of the requirements. And so being aware of those things just makes you a better advocate for your clients. And, to not just think, oh, I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna put in my Facebook. You learn a lot by being engaged in those areas.
Well said. Sorry, I'm having a tech moment. Anything else to add? Anyone else go to particular sources, or Dave? Yeah.
Well, create Google alerts. Just so that
Yes, say more about
North
that.
Canton, real estate, just keywords that are relevant to our community will kind of get you a lot of different sources and keep you aware.
Mhm.
I think always being a leader of news and events is important, because you may never have it come up with, a client brings it up and you're able to address it or connect through that. So I think always being a leader of local things is important.
If you don't know how to set up a Google alert, Google it. But that's a great tip. That's basically a way for you to set up your own news stream in a sense of say, I want to know the latest with Amazon Canton. You can search, okay, any article where Amazon and Canton are in the same article, I'm gonna get a daily email. And I can see the news. You need to have good, if you just said Amazon, you're gonna be getting 40,000 emails a day because the news likes to talk about them.
Gotta be specific.
Yes, the more specific, the better. But that's a great way to, in a quick way, coming to your inbox, provided you manage your inbox with any sort of order, which
That's a different issue.
different question, that'll be class 13.
And Facebook has certain communities too, where you can join the communities. And that's really a kind of a great source because you're also being engaged with the people just in that. Like, so if it's just, we're talking about North Canton specific, you see those. And then even if you chime in with something that you could contribute to the conversation, now you're relevant again. Or even some of the neighborhoods have their own, where you can get involved with those and you see it and you hear what the people are thinking.
Yes,
That's really important.
yes, no, groups is where it's at, as you talk about Facebook algorithms, being the person, not the obnoxious realtor that's just posting their stuff, posting their business card every couple of days, like that's not it, but it's being active, being plugged into what they're saying, but also being top of mind. And I'm aware of a couple agents nationally who have created their own, and it's not about like, Angel Agnes real estate empire. It's what's happening in Stark County, what's happening in Naples, whatever. And it's creating a reason for people to engage. Hey, I've got this coming up, or we're doing this garage sale, or did you know they've got, a sale running right now? It's a community space that you happen to own. And yeah, it can be a great way of building business. One point here is reframing negative messages here. As we talk about being kind of the local kind of news expert in a sense. What does that mean? And let's play with an example. What does reframing a negative message mean?
Finding a good spin on it. Whatever that is,
Mhm.
digging deep.
So let's, and it ain't lying. We shouldn't lack integrity. That's not true. These are not the droids you're looking for. So what does it look like to confront the truth and help the person with the skeptical lens to see things differently? So let's just play this out for a minute. Yeah, Dave.
Oh, sorry, I was just thinking like your perception, and I'm sorry, I forget your first name, but Scott. Really, we're reshaping the perception of whatever negative message it might be.
Yep. Dominic put his hand back up. I lowered it and it's back up. So Dominic, floor is yours.
I was just going to say, like when we went through the downturn 08 to 13, it was really a difficult time. Probably out of my 35 years, that was the hardest period of time. And what saved me and helped me understand how to kind of communicate to the people that are hearing the headlines that bleed and they terrify, they don't clarify, because, real estate's local. So KCM, Keeping Current Matters, if you haven't heard about it, they do like a weekly update of kind of what's happening. They call it a deep dive. I think it's a Monday or Tuesday deep dive. And then once a month, they come out with slides and information. And I use those a lot because when I try to understand what the perception is right now, like I just saw NAR just came out with something saying this is like pending sales are down. I don't know what percentage it is, but it's enough to make you think, oh God, what's going on? But when you look at like the MLS, and all of us can get in the MLS and do a search in Jackson, North Canton, or the surrounding areas and do what's called an area market survey. So that shows you kind of like days on market, what properties, how many are for sale, how many are pending, how many closed. And so you kind of get a sense of what's hot, what's not, what the days are. So that would be more localized. But when you're hearing what you're dealing with the customers, the KCM, I would probably say was probably my best resource to help me kind of understand how to deal with stuff and how to try to figure out how to use my my expertise and try to explain it as the expert, the local expert. And I think that's kind of like, looking at the local data, you can kind of like transform it into their backyard versus, California or whatever you guys were saying. So those are two good sources. I'd go area market survey, shows you what's going on. So if you're getting a listing in a certain pocket or price range, like I'll give an example. I had a property in the 5s and we're struggling, the market's shifting, that price range is shifting. And there were like, every time there was a sale, they would freak out and like, why are they selling? It's that's my competition. Well, in fact, it really wasn't, because when I dug down in each one of these properties that sold, let's say there's 8 sales in 6 months, right? They were all first floor master styles in that category, not a 2-story bedroom. You know what I mean? So it's important to know that so you can explain to your customer, because if not, you'll be the dog tail instead of the dog.
Right. No, that's a great point. Those are great sources. And I think as we think about news, a little tip is share the news article and then make a nuanced comment. And then would love to have a conversation and talk more. You don't need to reinvent the wheel here. If that's all you're doing, if all of your social media is just sharing stuff and saying, let's talk, that's a bit much. But we got an agent, Dan Jendrasak, who shares like more nuanced articles, and he's really smart, and he'll make a really good thought. Hey, let's have a conversation. That's a simple way to raise people's awareness for who you are and what you're doing. Back to the reframing negative messages. So let's just play this out for a second. I'm a buyer. The interest rates, I can afford basically half the house of what I could have a couple of years ago from an affordability standpoint. How do we reframe that? You're my agent. How do you reframe, oh, I can't buy now because the interest rates have made things too expensive? Anyone want to, what are ways to reframe my negative perspective on things?
I usually take it to paper. Let's crunch some numbers. Let's see if it, first of all, if it's as bad as you think it is.
Sure.
And.
Let's get them into reality.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
Good.
the first step.
In that particular situation, I think the cliche, it's become that, marry the house, date the rate. I think talking about the fact that there's an opportunity to buy homes where the last 2 years, there was a lot more competition. People were going over, and that when the rates do come down, if they do, why not to the historic lows they once were,
Right.
But then you can refinance.
Yep.
So communicating a plan that is possible that they can see and understand, but now you can get the house you want versus you were trying to just get a house sometimes.
Right.
With the competition.
Yeah, that's the good news is, hey, it's bringing them back to why they're looking to make a decision. Hey, you're looking to move because of your family's expanding and this is exciting. And the good news is that in this market, because things are more expensive, a lot of the competition has changed, which means you're more likely to be in a stronger negotiation position to get the terms, the place, and the location. I can't provide any guarantees, but it's not denying the fact that the price of money has gone up. It has. That's the truth. And there's silver lining that you don't need to be Pollyanna, but for them to understand, oh, there is a positive element to this.
And while there's some that go multiple, you have an opportunity to get your home inspection, to get repairs done, to do the things that will give you more peace of mind moving into this home. So
Yep.
selling on those points, I think, are great.
How we become media, we've looked at this. Confidence breeds competence, or competence breeds confidence. And so it's like, hey, I'm not a numbers person, or I don't
Mhm.
like reading the news. I think a practical tip in here is put it in your calendar. I'm gonna spend 15 minutes a morning reading what's going on. And a lot of us are looking for new listings in the MLS for our buyer clients, but to add the habit of looking at MLS data. Okay, what is our inventory today? What is our average days on market today? The stats tab on the MLS has a lot of that stuff preset for you. And it's easy to look at. What else do we want to highlight in here? Angel, for you, as I find the next tab, you're in Naples, you're in some ways new kids on the block looking to
kids.
form a business. They don't care that you have sold in Ohio for 27 years.
Don't care.
What does it look like for you as you guys together think strategically about gaining traction and building market share in an environment that you know but haven't sold in before?
Correct. So actually, we've been doing a lot of talking about that and trying to get our game plan and a business plan in place. And that's what we've been working on, like, how does that work? Because there's 100 million agents down there as well. And
Yeah, they would be, luxury markets are going to be more saturated just because you don't have to sell as much.
It's ridiculous, yes. And so that's exactly what we're thinking. Okay, so we have to, first of all, when you were talking about the confidence and
Competence.
competence, and people don't know their numbers, and this kind of goes into our business plan. I
Is she
never,
responsible for that?
no.
Come on,
She
Allison.
probably thinks so. I always want to say, if numbers aren't your thing, be who you are.
Yes.
Don't stray from that. You'll always find some strength in whatever your strengths are. Like, I'm not a numbers person, and I can't even pretend, because it would go awry.
Mhm,
So I'm not going to do that.
mhm.
And like starting up in Florida, I could never lead with that.
Sure.
So my strength would be, I'm good at networking.
Mhm.
I love being in front of people. I love doing the authenticity of myself and putting myself out there. I'm not afraid to do that.
Mhm.
And then maybe joining organizations and getting to know more and more people. So going to all these events, maybe doing some, I know, get on a board, do some charity work, do whatever it is in the community that I feel is real to me, that's in my box here, that I would just implement there. And really, I would have to take it into hyperdrive because I have a lot to do.
Right.
So, and being in front of people is where I'm good at. I can't do stats. Dave is amazing at them. I know Dominic is as well. They're both great at those things. I'm not. I doubted I could pass 4th grade math. So, but that's where I'm gonna have to start, is getting the cards, getting in front of people. Who can I meet? It's almost like you're running for public office.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It really is. It's like I'm running for the new mayor in town, and I want y'all to know who I am and how do I convey that message to them?
Mhm. That's a great tie-in to the slide that I wanted to highlight here. If it's just about, oh, I need more business, I'm gonna try to get more business. If you're aiming at nothing, you're gonna hit it every time, right?
Mhm.
So as we talk about goals, and this slide here is talking about, okay, if I want this type of business, how many calls do I need to make? How many contacts? So contacts versus calls. Calls, it's an actual conversation. Contacts are efforts towards them. Number of additions to my database. If I'm not adding to my database, giving me the opportunity to then nurture them and build a relationship with them and ensure that people aren't slipping through the cracks, then why be in touch with them at all?
Mhm.
Number of appointments with buyers, number of appointments with sellers. So let's tie this back to what you're doing. As you think about visibility, that's what your goal is. I want to build relationships on hyperdrive by joining the networking group, going to the events, participating in a charity opportunity. How might you tie goals to that?
Okay, so there, again, we're back to always have a card on you.
Mhm.
And even like, just little things, community things. Gosh, how do Like, you're gonna have to put time away from family, again, just because you're starting a fresh business. And you're gonna have to set that time away to where can I get in front of people? Get the local newspapers, not just the bigger ones, the smaller community ones, find out what's happening, get educated, know your backyard. And then find out where things are happening, even at the dog park. I mean, taking your dog to the dog park,
Mhm.
you know, it's such a non-confrontational, or, you know, everybody's kind of relaxed. You're like, oh, hey, you know what I mean? Doing your thing, and anywhere you could find to go to put yourself in front of people is an excellent resource, and it's free.
Mhm.
I mean, where else can you market yourself and answer questions that people may have about you, the business or whatever, where it's free?
Mhm.
So and just be yourself, but
Right.
know your stuff.
Right.
And when you talk about, people don't like having scripts,
Mhm,
so to speak, and we were talking about education and knowing what's going on.
Right.
You know, that's so silly. It's because even like the White House, the speaker has to come out there being prepared for questions.
Right.
Know the topic. It's not scripted, it's just kind of scripted, but you have to know
It's
what the
preparation.
topics
Yeah.
of the day are, and you're prepared to answer them, you know, so it's the same thing for us.
I would nuance that and say, yeah, you're prepared to answer them, or you're prepared to build relationships through them.
Right,
You know, and there are times, one of my favorite techniques is, you know, there's an article that I'd like to send you. Can I get your email address? And it's not like, you know, it's happening in real interactions, like, oh, who are you? And why would I do that? But having a reason to follow up because you didn't know the answer to something, or there's more that you could do, gives a reason for that. Hey, did you read that?
right.
Was there anything, you know, interesting to you about that? Or do you want to get together at that next thing
Right.
next time?
So you've made a new contact,
Mhm.
you've been yourself, you had follow-up, and it was free. It
Yep.
didn't cost you anything but your time.
Absolutely. Realtors are good at networking with other realtors, which is fun, but you're not getting business from other realtors, at least in your area. You know, that's a good reason to go to national conventions and things like that, because you meet peers who are from other parts of the country. We've got a new agent who just got licensed, who's got a military background. Like, yeah, you need to meet realtors that are based at near all of the bases, all of the Army bases across the entire country, because when they're sending people this way and when your friends are going out that way, there's opportunity there. But networking is with people who might do business with you or connect you to that business,
Right.
which typically isn't realtors.
Right.
Yep. Any other thoughts, anyone, as you think about your weekly goals with related to calls, contacts, database, anyone have thoughts to share there?
Do you wear merch? Saying who you are? What do you?
Oh, you know what? I have before, and it's so funny you say that, because Zunta had walked in and the first thing I noticed was her merchandise, like her logo on her shirt and her hat. And I thought it was the cutest thing, you know what I mean? It did stand out. And, you know, sometimes I think if people do notice it, but then is it like,
Is it obnoxious?
yeah, I don't know the answer to
And
that.
do you wear
'cause it
your
could-
pin, do you, or your
Right
name
upside down.
badge? Do you go to Target and then they say, can you tell me where the whatever?
I don't. I don't. And I know a lot of people do. And the reason I don't is because I always feel weird about doing that. So I don't want to be, I want to be me. You know what I mean? So if I'm not being me, I can't have a conversation with anybody if I feel a little weird or uncomfortable or not my true self. So I don't. But I know it does bring a lot of conversations to people.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
curious
I
what
don't
you
know, but
do,
I do
yeah.
notice it and I think it's adorable. But the upside down thing, that's funny.
Yeah, one of our, I feel like Jackie Wakem where someone does that, where, you know, when someone does that, it's a, oh, yeah, you know, and
And then it draws
it creates an
attention to it,
interaction as
yeah.
opposed to the, you know.
He's not here. Connie Babcock's son, he's not here this, when I first got in the business, Connie Babcock said she, I probably shouldn't have said her name, but she taught Sunday school only so that she could wear her pin, her name badge. I know, I probably said her name out loud.
We're all trying to work so hard right now.
You know,
Yeah,
Yeah,
she was doing good and it started conversation.
it is 1:02 and I want to spend 2 minutes talking about a topic and then want to respect your time. So as we think about generating leads, there are two paths to doing that. There's marketing, which is putting yourself out there, running an ad, posting something on social media. It's something that someone might find. Prospecting is going to people, whether it's calling or, you know, the more direct mail, that sort of thing. Good agents do both. The message and the method matters. So as you think about your target audience, basically there's two types of offers that can be made. And Gary talks a lot about being equipped in a shifting market to make a MOFR, make offer for immediate response. You're not doing this with people that you know. You're not saying, hey, you know, participate in this program now, friend. But as you think about getting in front of more people, or if you're thinking about farming a community, the opportunity to have people respond directly to something. The classic, most traditional version of this is click here or contact me for a free home valuation analysis. You know, that's the classic, and I would say tired one, which isn't wrong to do. But I would encourage you all to consider what sort of MOFR might you put in front of your people? And some of it may be real estate related. It might be a giveaway, or participate with me in a matching program for this charity. You know, the buy this house, will buy yours program. Like, there's lots of different versions out there, and the more resources you have, the easier it is to do the large scale ones. But that's something I want to leave each of you with, is considering what sort of immediate response, click here to participate or click here to learn more offer, as you think about widening. Oh, I only have 75 people in my database. How can you get in front of 500 more where that stranger would click or would respond or would answer the call? And there's more in here that I'll send as follow-up resources to kind of get you thinking, but I do want to respect your time. Angel, thanks for
Thank you.
sharing and being in the firing squad. Let's give it up for Angel. And yeah, I feel like we need to make these hour 15 or something, just because it gets scrunched. But I appreciate you all sharing your afternoon and committing to your learning. Next week, stand by. I'll send an email. Linda reminded me that a week from today is our day. And that may not be the best day to do this as well. So we may take a week off. Ginger, I'll give you a call. Ginger Kuhn and I will be talking about lead conversion. You're in a relationship with them. What does it look like to actually move towards business together? All right, folks, I'm going to stop the share here and I'm going to end the meeting here. Yeah, good turn.
Are you calling for D?